So until I became creative director of La Perla, I didn't tell a single person about my past. What happened when I took over Elite World Group is that I realized that even in this society, even in the 21st century, there are so many women in every ethnicity, situation. It doesn't have to be that you live in a restrictive society.
So I wrote something similar in the intro to my book. At times I thought my story was so far removed from the average North American that I thought no one would relate. When I began to share my story with others, I found the pressure to follow what is expected of us by family, religion, and society versus what we truly want and desire is a challenge all of us must wrestle with. I realized that my story is everyone's
What
story.
I'm seeing here is you led such a restricted life before, and now you are
Oh, yes.
being everything you want to be.
It's very complex because Orthodox Jew is a huge umbrella term for so many different kinds of communities and different ways of doing things. And even within the communities, people have different standards. So in my introduction to my book, I wrote, important to note is that this is my personal experience in the religion I grew up in. It must be understood that Judaism has many groups, and therefore my experience is not exhaustive and is not reflective of the entire Jewish community. Julia was not a part of the strictest Hasidic community, and on the show, they don't really explain this difference. In a country's suburban neighborhood, just an hour outside of New York City, is a community so vastly different from an average North American one. In a world apart with its own language, ideas, and laws, the Hasidic Jewish community shelters its children from outside influences. As Americans, we think generally that there's education and opportunity for all, and if you work hard, you can succeed. In these communities, right in New York City and the surrounding suburban neighborhoods, children can neither get a proper education with a high school diploma nor are allowed to attend college, not because education isn't available, but because the community refuses to offer it to their children. Instead of proper education, boys and girls from the age of 17 are paired up in arranged marriages. The first step, in the week after the wedding, the newly married couple is taken by their parents to the welfare department to sign up for food stamps and Medicaid as their income.
Well, you have to realize that to me, clothing some people think clothing is frivolous or like fashion. Why does it matter?
Brene Brown's research on shame reveals that body image and appearance are nearly universal shame triggers. It doesn't go away with age. And I think the thing about struggling with your appearance that's particularly painful is that our deepest desire is to be seen. We care about our appearance not because we're super vain or obsessed with our image, but because we want to connect and we want for people to see us.
But you have to realize that my whole life, I was forced to cover myself, right? So basically, the only parts of my body that were showing were my hands and my face.
My body I kept covered with long sleeves, long skirts, and high necklines, so I can't remember the shape of my prepubescent thighs, but I can recall always checking how my clothes looked, my face looked, even within the limits of our modest choices. Of course, I wasn't supposed to care about my face, my clothes, my house. I was highly materialistic to even think about those things. My teacher promised us beautiful green grass in heaven. Why would we need to have it here in this world? But the cool people were the people who had the nice things. But they were, of course, superficial and materialistic. There was constant pressure to keep up with the trends in summer camp where the city girls wore brand names and expensive clothing. Every Saturday we paraded in our best holiday clothing and shoes, secretly judging and comparing the clothing we wore. We prepared elaborate meals and tasty food for Saturdays, holidays. These were the conflicting messages of my childhood and my sheltered religious upbringing. I wanted nice things, but I was told they weren't important. The material world and its pleasures were not to be valued or desired. Only virtues such as kindness and controlling our anger or jealousy brought forth from our desire for the physical in life were extolled. Beauty was to be cultivated within. My self-esteem was supposed to come not from feeling beautiful, but from the knowledge that God loved me. What was important was to have a relationship with God. But when we prayed to God to give us all the nice physical things we weren't really supposed to want anyway.
The most attractive look is always the most authentic one. Authenticity is universally attractive. When someone shows up authentically, you don't just see it, you also feel it. The signature of authenticity is resonance. You're looking for a match and a sympathetic relationship between the clothing and the wearer.
The idea behind my collection is that I wanted to create something that's art. With fashion, it's art that you wear. It's wearable. And the woman who wears it interacts with what it is. How many times have you told someone, don't look at it on the hanger, don't look at it, wait till I put it on? Because the woman who wears it, she creates it.
Imagine that you are a member of an orchestra, and each instrument shows up and has a different sound, a different quality. Long, sweeping, dramatic sounds, if you think of like the violin or the brass section. And that's where like your power instruments are. So it's things like the trumpet and the tuba and the trombone. And these are the loudest instruments. You can hear them from the furthest away, and they make you feel a certain way. Whenever I hear a trumpet, I just feel like I can, take on the world. Instruments like the bass drum and the timpani, and they keep the beat for the whole rest of the orchestra. You are like an instrument. You were made to play a certain kind of music. That's what true personal style is, when it's resonant, when it's authentic, and expressing the specific kind of beat and rhythm of your life. You have a certain energy to you. You have a certain movement, a feeling. All of this is wrapped up in your identity, and it looks like something, and it feels like something to the people around you.
Passover night, I was reading a commentary on asceticism, the idea of getting to a point of spiritual development where the physical world and its comforts become of no importance. I stopped reading, and in a lucid moment of stark clarity, I saw I had arrived at that glorified point of spiritual maturity. In some strange and twisted way, fate had led me to what I had been working towards as an innocent, young, idealistic, but intrepidly foolish teenager when I was battling with myself oh so hard to be less materialistic. I realized with mirthless horror and surprise that I had achieved that unattainable level. The world was so black and meaningless for me that none of it could entice my interest. I couldn't hold an understanding of it all, and I cared for nothing except to rid myself of the pain that was slicing the wiring of my sanity. And it was in those bleakest of moments where I knew beyond doubt I had lost it all, the iciness of my winter had covered my soul in confusion, and my frozen body made me unable to feel anything of this world. It was then that I saw, with limpid brilliance like one lone splash of fireworks in an inky night sky, that this could not be the intention and desire of our heralded God, that this could not possibly be the exalted way of rightness and truth. Why would God have created such a beautiful world if it was all not to be enjoyed and richly experienced? It was that Passover night, when winter turned to spring, that I decided I would find God from within the physical world. I came to the conclusion that since God created the world, the best way to know him would be to study and understand the existence of everything in this world. I figured if he deemed something worthy of creation, then it must exist for an impeccable reason. All of the physical must have a spiritual underlying dynamic of feeling that we want to experience. I imagine that the innate physical existence of a thing must be its energetic principle expressing its nature in the physical that we see and touch. Every physical thing in existence gives us a specific feeling in our interaction with it. This feeling of the thing is always what we hunger for as we busy ourselves with filling the days of our lives with getting the things we want and desire.
Just like an instrument, if you don't take care of your appearance and your style, it tends to fall out of tune. And it's really easy to fall out of tune because there's so many other people around you playing different notes, and it's very easy to kind of tune to them. So the way that I like to talk about style is that it's just the way in which you do things. Understand the way you move. And we're talking about like their inner movement. It's your inner beat or your rhythm for how you are expressing this energy inside of you.
She's just herself. And I don't think there's anything more attractive than when a woman is herself. She's not buying clothing for someone else. She's not wearing it for someone else. She's wearing it because when she looks in the mirror, she feels good about herself. She's just who she is.
I believe there's joy to be found in religion, and possibly every culture or religion is like its own instrument in an orchestra, but it has to come from within and not be forced.